probably agree on.
Yeah, the playoff team for sure.
So do you.
I mean, I tell you what, I don't think there was a more accurate state. And
if they struggle again, I mean, I don't think there's any way you can keep Alex Critch, but.
What's up, y'all? I'm Bud Elliott. This is my college football summer school. Today, I want to talk UCF, and no better place to go for that than Knights 247. I'm bringing on Stephen Leonard. What's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Having a great summer. Just graduated, so first one without any school. Living life.
Congratulations for that, man.
Thanks.
Way to go. Let's talk about the Knights. So exciting first year in the Big 12. I think what we saw with all of the schools moving to the Big 12 is that there was a bit of an adjustment for the teams moving to that new league. What was kind of the biggest thing that you took away from that move?
I think obviously the size and just the injuries of UCF dealt with injuries all throughout the year. Obviously, John Rice went down earlier, and then they just had a bunch of injuries pile up. And I think that was the biggest difference between Group of Five and Power Five.
For sure. Let's stay positive here. Where is this team clearly better in your mind than it was last year?
I think from a coaching perspective, Gus is now taking over the offensive play calling. He announced that in January. And Ted Roof coming in. It's just more experienced. They also don't lose either coordinator. They demoted them to other roles. And so just the experience of the coaching staff, and also on the defensive side, they've brought in a lot of guys that are specifically good at defending the run, which they struggled with. They were outside of the top 100 in run defense last year. So they've
Who's the guy that, fast forward a month from now, we're at Big 12 Media Day, which I think is in Vegas, right? It's kind of cool. We're at Big 12 Media Day. This UCF player doesn't get voted on the All Big 12 team, but in your mind, you're like, all right, come the final team, he should be on there. Who is that guy for you?
I mean, RJ Harvey's been disrespected by the All Big 12 teams. I think he was a third team by most people, an honorable mention last year. He's one of the best running backs in college football, and he's been voted low, so I think he's probably going to be left off. And he just signed a deal with no bowl yesterday, so I think.
Wow, there you go. So they bring in KJ. Oh, sorry. They bring in KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. Personally, I've always thought Gus has done amazing things with mobile quarterbacks. You saw John Rice Plumlee, but how do you expect this mobile quarterback situation to look compared to what you had last year with JRP?
Yeah, I mean, obviously KJ's dealt with some injuries, but he is a bigger guy. He's played through a lot of injuries as well. I think he's only missed a handful of games throughout his career. But I think that's the big point where JRP was played like he was Cam Newton, but he was he wasn't as big. KJ adds that size and the ability to take hits like a running back would.
That'll be interesting. If they're able to use him more on some of the inside run game stuff, as opposed to, JRP was very good at getting the edge. if one of those Reed defenders overstepped, even a slight bit, they do lose Javon Baker to the NFL. What's the plan to replace him, or if he's not replaceable, maybe to distribute those targets elsewhere?
Obviously, they've went out in the portal and grabbed a ton the spring. Javarius Johnson, Jacoby Jones, Ajayi Hall's coming in as a preferred walk-on. They have a freshman in Burdell Richardson and Kylan Fox, who is in the tight end room in spring. He's going to move over to wide receiver. So they're definitely throwing everything they can to get that third wide receiver. And then they have Xavier Townsend and Kobe Hudson back. Hudson and Baker kind of interchanged last year as the wide receiver one. And then you have Townsend and his third year at the wide receiver position, really trying to define himself.
Who is the first-year starter in whom you have the most confidence?
This is kind of out of left field, but it's probably Chasen Johnson at corner. I think he ends up starting year one as a freshman. All through spring, he looked like the best defensive back on UCF. He's probably the one that the coaching staff has the most faith in.
Right. I love answers like that. Honestly, like that's why we do summer school, right? It's like that's what we want to find out cool stuff. Like so, when UCF has a true freshman corner who's looked that good, that's awesome, man. Like that's pretty cool. Next question: what's the position with the best depth?
Best depth, probably linebacker, which I couldn't have imagined saying to you last year when UCF was running a lot of bad linebacker sets and giving up a ton of running yards. But they've went out and they've grabbed a lot of linebackers, Deshaun Pace, Ethan Barr. They've looked pretty good. Josiah Pierre as well. They've looked good throughout the spring. They've been getting good reports this summer on them. So that's the unit where I think there's the most depth in now.
What's the position battle you're most looking forward to come fall?
I really think it has to be that right tackle spot. That's the spot where no one really knows who's going to play. They could slide out Marcellus Marshall from guard and maybe play a Jabari Brooks or Walt Claire Flynn, who have been battling at center, or they go with Paul Rubelt, who played there during the spring, or maybe Wes Dorsey gets in the mix. So I think that's the position with the most uncertainty, and this position that probably affects the season the most, as offensive line is key.
Absolutely. What has to happen for UCF to, let's say, make the Big 12 title game this year?
RJ Harvey and Penny Boone have to be as good as advertised. They're getting in the mix with the best running back units in the nation. I feel like if they are that good, we've seen in the Big 12, teams can take over running the ball. You had Ollie Gordon this past year at Oklahoma State, and they got to the Big 12 title game based on just him outpowering teams. I think if Penny Boone and RJ Harvey, I think combined, they had over 3,000 yards last year. Obviously, two different teams, but that's a lot of yardage. If they can do something this year, I think that's how you get to the Big 12 title game.
I look at this interior defensive line group for UCF, and last year, as you noted, run defense was definitely an issue. On paper, this looks really good to me. Like this could be one of the best interior D-line groups in the Big 12, right?
Yeah, I mean, you even kind of saw last year, if like watching the film, if the interior defensive line didn't get to him, it was breaking for like a 10-yard run. But if they did get to him, it was stopped in the backfield, like 2-3 yard loss. I think Lee Hunter was one of the best in the Big 12 in tackles for loss and tackles for no gain. Ricky Barber was dealing with some injuries. He's back fully healthy now. John Walker's in year 2. They have a really exciting interior defensive line unit, and that's not even mentioning Derek LeBlanc now being eligible.
I think Hunter specifically playing with better effort and more consistency down to down and just being in better shape is so huge. Taking people behind the scenes, when you're watching recruits, you watch highlights, but also you watch, if you can, you get the all 22 huddle. You try to watch full games, and sometimes you watch highlights of other players on their teams. And I specifically remember when we were watching Hunter, we watched one of his teammates who was also a good player, and in the plays that did not make Hunter's highlight, Hunter's effort level in high school was concerning for sure. But like we were always like, man, if Hunter puts it together and it's like a consistent, if the motor is motoring, that guy is hard to block. So like I was super excited to see how he did last year for UCF, and I'm looking forward to watching some continuing growth there.
Yeah, obviously last year I mentioned him, and you were completely shocked by him even getting mentioned as a starter, and then
you nailed
it. He did.
Absolutely. Have you seen much of Nigel Kelly yet? He was a guy I know that I liked a lot with his potential, but the shoulder and the lower body injury as well. What are the expectations for him out of the transfer portal?
I haven't gotten to see him personally a lot, but what I've heard is they're expecting him to be fully healthy. And if he is, he obviously has played at a high level when he's healthy. It's just getting him to be healthy for a full season. They had guys that they were confident in the spring, so he's kind of an icing on the cake type of guy. Where if they can keep him healthy, that's an elite edge rusher. But if they can't, they do have guys that they can rely on, like Malachi Lawrence and Dalen Dotson.
How fired up is UCF for this game against the Gators, a team that has its lowest Vegas win total that it's had? I mean, I'm almost 40 in my lifetime for sure, at least as far as back as Google will allow me to go.
I mean, Gus Malzahn said when the game got announced they would play the Gators anywhere. They would play them in the parking lot. I think this team really wants to show that they are one of the big boys in Florida now. I think that's what this game means to them. And Billy Napier could be coaching for his job in that game. So I think there's going to be a lot riding on that game for both teams, both recruits' expectations of UCF. If they're able to win that game, it's like a legitimacy thing. I feel.
Absolutely. Steve, I really enjoyed this, man. Learned a lot more about the Knights. I know I'll be reading all your coverage over there at Knights 247.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.
See you, man.